welcome back to Crochet and Crime, where I crochet and I tell true crime stories. Today we'll be talking about Traci Rhode. Traci Rhode is a case that isn't really talked about much, which kind of upsets me because it's kind of a really crazy story. But, yeah. I would like to put out a quick disclaimer. This story does go over, like, affairs and abuse, and, it does brush over suicide. And it does mention it a little bit, so if you're not into that, I suggest you click away from this video, and with that, let's get into it. Traci Rhode had a fairly normal childhood, and it was nothing out of the ordinary. She had tons of friends, she was loved by many different people, and in high school is whenever she met Scott. And they became high school sweethearts. They dated all throughout high school. You know, everybody knew that they were a couple. Everybody knew how, like, they were all, like, calling them, like, cute and stuff. And, yeah. So after they graduated, Scott went to college to become an engineer, and Traci went to college to become a nurse, specializing in, like, delivering babies and other things like that. And a few years after they graduated, the two got married. Over the years, the couple had 3 sons. In every photo that they like posted or anything like that, they seemed like such a beautiful family, and that they loved each other, and that they cared for each other, everything. Like, they were like picture perfect family for a lot of people. And Traci would later on say that Scott was very controlling and very jealous. He would always accuse her of having different affairs, and since she was away at work all the time, she would come home late. And, you know, since she was like at the hospital delivering babies. So one night, Traci comes home and she notices that Scott and the 3 kids were gone, and so she was scared, and she was calling different hospitals and to like think they got into like an accident, and then she hears the garage door open. There was Scott and the boys, and Scott just started yelling at Traci in front of the kids, calling her a slut, a tramp, a whore, all of these other gross, very not nice words. Not nice words, Scott. How dare you? And also in front of her kids. Like, these kids were like maybe 5 years old or younger at this time. And Scott was even like, I went out with the boys to show them how much of a whore their mother is. And I'm like, where did you guys go? Like, did you take her to the hospital and was like, look at your mother with the doctors holding all the babies? I don't know. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? That's kind of weird for him to like kind of like drive around town with the kids, kind of like being like, oh well, where's your mother today? Even though she's been at work since like 6 in the morning. Over the span of 13 years, Scott moved the family 5 different times, all because he kept saying Traci was cheating on him with the doctors that she was working with. And so in 2003, they landed in Texas, and this time Traci actually meets a guy, Sean Michaels. And, you know, Sean and Traci were like started off as like kind of like work friends. Like, they would see each other in the hallway and be like, hey, how you doing? And then Sean would be kind of like a little flirt towards Traci, and Traci would be like, hey, sorry dude, some dude already put a ring on it, too late. And then Sean would be like, okay. And then like 2 days later, he'd be like, what's up, Traci? What's up, shawty? And then she would be like, no, I got a husband, bro. And he'd be like, damn. And then like he would continue trying to like get to Traci, and like Traci kept shutting that shit down. She was like, no. And then one day in the parking garage, you know, they're talking about, I think it was like patience or something. I don't know what they were talking about. I don't know, a pigeon. I don't know. Anyways, so they're in the parking garage, and they're by Traci's car, and Traci's like, okay, I gotta get home, you know, I gotta go see my babies, you know, I haven't seen them in, like, all day. And Sean's like, okay, and then he, like, goes, like, fucking kisses her. And Traci's all like, oh, no, what? And then, like, they ended up making out in the parking garage. And then later on, whenever Traci's getting like interviewed and stuff, they're like, oh, did you ever like have an affair or anything like that? And then Traci's like, no. So one night Traci was getting home from like her morning walk, and she hears moaning coming from her home, and she's like, well, shit, Scott's having an affair. And so she walks in and sees Scott bleeding out, like he got shot, and his eyes were all swollen. There's blood trickling down his face, and Traci was flipping out, trying to get him to stay conscious, and she calls the police. And later on, Scott did pass away, and at first the police were like, oh, it was a suicide. No, sucks. But, like, I don't know. I don't think Scott would, like, beat himself up in a way to, like, slowly kill himself. Well, he did, like, there's a shotgun wound. Not a shotgun wound, but, like, gunshot wound. So, maybe. So we're like, okay, it's probably not a suicide, probably a homicide. And so they begin to interview Traci. So they asked Traci why she didn't help her husband, since like she's like a nurse. I guess that made sense to them. And she said she was in shock, obviously, and all she could really do was apply pressure to his wound and wait for the police. So the police look at her phone calls and see she calls work to like call out of it, and like after she called the police, like she saw Scott, she called the police, she was like, oh my god. And then like she waited for the police, and then she called her work to like call out because like her husband got shot. And I guess the police thought that was really weird, since like she did that like a couple minutes after calling the police, if that makes sense, if that timeline makes sense. A few days before this happened, Scott took Traci to a divorce attorney's office, completely surprising her. And so Scott tells Traci that he is done with her and he is taking the kids, like he's fighting for full custody. And Traci swore up and down that she never had an affair, and that's when they get home, Scott grabbed a baseball bat and threatened to kill Sean, and he was screaming at Traci, asking her where he lives. Traci swore she had no idea where he lived, and that's when Scott grabbed her by the shirt and raised his fist at her, and like she was carrying away. And then she got out of his grasp and ran to their bedroom, locking herself in. She was packing a suitcase. Scott got inside, he saw the suitcase, and he was like, don't leave me. He was crying, he was begging on his knees, you know, all that stuff. And, you know, Traci stayed because she loved him. And then he turned into this really sweet husband for the rest of the night. And then the next day he's like, yeah, I'm gonna fucking kill Scott. Or not Scott, but Sean. I'm gonna kill him. Then, on August 11th of 2005, Traci was arrested for Scott's murder. Traci used a pillow to silence both the gun and Scott, and to prevent any backsplatter on herself from like the blood and stuff. And she arranged the gun to make it look like a suicide. But one thing she forgot to do was put blood on Scott's hand, which I guess is what threw the police off, is because like the blood splattered, but like it only splattered on like the pillow and not like any of his other like body parts, just mainly like his face and like maybe his neck and chest, but none of like the hand where like the gun was supposed to be if it was a suicide, you know? She thought she was smart. She was smart about the back splatter, but not anything else. I'm not agreeing with it, whatever she did, but you know what I mean? Yeah. Anyways, they were originally gonna lock up Traci for a long time, but her two older sons took the stand and said that they needed their mom because like they just lost their dad to suicide and now they only have their mom left, and that tugged at the jury's hearts, and so they regrouped and decided to sentence Traci to 10 years probation. Yep, probation. This woman got off scot-free for potentially killing her husband, and she spent like 3 days in like the county jail, and like she had to pay a $10,000 fine, but besides that she's like living her best life in Texas. I think it's somewhere down south. I want to say it's somewhere down south. Anyway, she's somewhere in Texas. She's living her best life with all of her sons. So yeah, I'm gonna finish this up and I'll be right back. Alright, here are the finished products. I was able to make 3 granny squares today. One because my yarn kept breaking. I don't know, it's become like very like, what's it called, brittle? I don't think that's the word. Brittle, where it like breaks easily. Fragile. No. Anyways, so the yarn kept breaking, so my patience was very thin, just like the yarn, so I only was able to make 3 granny squares today, and I'm sorry. But look at the color, it's pretty, isn't it? Anyways, also look at my nails. Sorry, ADHD brain. So, this story was absolutely crazy. It was wild. Not as wild as any of the other stories. This story is kind of a little short, but it's still the right amount of crazy for this channel. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this story as much as I did. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, share with all your friends and the demons in your closet. And yeah, I hope to see you guys next week. Bye!